Hi everybody, welcome to Livewire Review. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are here today with the Kia EV9, 2024 Kia EV9. And I'm really excited about this product because they have gone after that large SUV market and they've done it in a way that feels sporty, compact, which is weird to say in all one sentence, but I'm really excited to get in this thing and drive. I know you have been waiting for this one for a while.
So I've been waiting for this one since January. I'm really excited about it just because how utilitarian it is, how useful it is, how many features are in it. It's perfect. It's your 7-passenger SUV. It weighs about 5,700 pounds, so it's not incredibly heavy for an EV, especially of this size. And it's got some pretty impressive numbers. There's 379 horsepower in this thing, 516 pound-feet of torque if you have FOD turned on, and 0 to 60 times for something that weighs 5,700 pounds. 5 seconds 0 to 60 with FOD on, 5.7 seconds with FOD off. Now, I'm really excited to get behind the wheel, and what's really impressive with this one is this one also tows a trailer.
Yep.
And it does about 1,600 pounds without brakes, and 3,500 to 5,000
up to 5,000 with
trailer
trailer brakes. It's literally the vehicle that you need. So
yeah.
Let's get in, let's go rock.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So let's start this one out with the walk around. So right away, this thing establishes itself in your life. This massive, I dare call it a bug catcher because it's caught a couple on the way here already, but this massive wide front end. The interesting thing I thought when I walked up to it was the deck height, so to speak, was fairly low because everything about this thing is about achieving aerodynamics, achieving efficiency. But that giant bug catcher sweeps you out to these two brilliant LED headlights. At night, these things are incredible. We were actually driving it back from the store last night, just middle of the afternoon it looked like in front of me, which I absolutely loved. Now, coming around the corner here, you get down into the wheels. Now these wheels are unique to the Land package with no other options. If you were to bump up into the premium package or even the GT line package, you get completely unique wheels. But with this one here, you are getting a set of 19-inch alloys, again, with the aero cover on the top. I think they look cool. They had to grow on me though, I will say that for sure. Sweeping along the backside, you do get the lovely door handles that will slide in completely flush. Now, unlike some of the other products that will kind of hinge from one side or the other, no, these just disappear completely. There's not a lot of other outstanding things to talk about. I do love the color breakup here with that kind of faint green tinge to the silver. And then you sweep around the back to your lovely LED brake lights. Again, nothing too crazy as far as aerodynamics go. There is one cool thing, and I'm gonna try and get a shot of it here. The body sweeps into the back almost like it narrows, which is really cool. Again, I'm assuming it's just aero, but it's just from a design standpoint, it starts out wide and big, it gets in your face, and then kind of tapers off in this teardrop fashion, it's just cool. I like it. Well, let's jump into the back. We're gonna check out the third row, we're gonna check out the hatch and all the cool things that are on the business end of this vehicle. So here at the back end of the EV9, you get the hatch up, powered hatch up and down. You can open from either in the driver's seat or on the key as needed. This thing is cavernous, and I'm gonna say that because not most vehicles, we don't get to give you 3 different storage space numbers. But here, behind the third row, you have 572 liters of storage, and that's not including your little bit down here. You've got some space, you got your spare tire kit, but you've also got a little bit of storage under the floor, put your charge cable and stuff in there. But the big ones, the big numbers come in once the third row goes down. You get 1,231 liters of storage space behind the second row. So again, with those down, you got all the height, all the width. It's a ton of space in here. I like that the walls in these panels really kind of pull into the body once they come in the car so you don't lose any interior space. Now, before we talk about the biggest number, what else do you get back here? Well, you've got a 120 outlet here. You also have 2 power selectors that will actually flip the second row down, which is really handy if you are putting a larger item in here. You have another button for your trunk hold, so you can set the height as you need, and just another 12-volt outlet. So lots of features back here. So again, we're gonna give you now the biggest number in this thing. You get 2,313 liters of storage with all 3 rows folded down. And with that sliding second row, you're able to pull them all the way back so they're almost flush with the third, and then you just get the flat floor all the way through right to the first row. Again, all the height, all the width. You can put everything in here. Hell, I mean, I might take a nap in there when we're done shooting today. It's huge, and I think very functional for a family, which is what this vehicle realistically is targeted at. So here under the back end of the EV9, we've got your 189.5 horsepower motor. This is really just kind of sandwiched in the rear subframe here. The majority of the weight though, driving weight and gears kind of centered back, which is nice. You're gonna get that kind of roll in the back, and you really do feel that when you kind of get on it. Nothing else crazy to talk about back here. Standard coil spring suspension. Components are all exactly what I like. I love when we were putting this actually on the hoist, there's a ton of room around the lift points back here. Something odd to talk about, but from a technician standpoint, it made it easier to set up. A lot of EVs, I'll find myself looking underneath and being like, that's a little close to the battery, I better kind of move it over. But this one gave us a lot of choices, tons of space back here to work on everything, get at everything. You know, I actually think working on this is gonna be really cool. But let's jump onto the front and check that one out.
Okay, so I'm at the front end of the Kia EV9 right now, and there's a lot of things under here that I really like. So you have your permanent magnet motor up front with 189.5 horsepower. There's a little more torque in the back, but we'll talk about that later. So what's interesting about the Hyundai Kia design is they use a permanent magnet motor in the back and a permanent magnet motor in the front. Now this uses a disconnect device that will connect on the fly. It just matches the speed of the motor to what the speed of the wheels are, which I find very interesting. I think it's a little bit excessive. I would actually like to see an induction motor up front just for that simplicity, but Hyundai and Kia, they've done a really good job of programming that motor, and it works very well. Now, unlike the back motor that's hanging a little bit over the back axle and putting a little bit of the weight rearward, this motor is actually sticking straight up, so it keeps all of the weight right over the front axle. Now, looking at the suspension here, we've got very normal 2-piston brakes, sliding calipers on the front, but we actually have a double ball joint setup with a McPherson strut up here. I like this because this actually gives you a little bit better cornering control, and I like that they're using aluminum components, so they're reducing some of the unsprung weight up here. So as far as that goes, we got your 99 kilowatt battery in the middle running front to back, and there's not much else to see up here except for a couple of heat pump components. So let's keep moving. Okay, I'm in the second row of the Kia EV9 now, and there is a lot of adjustability back here. The seats actually move forward all the way up like this and all the way back, which really helps because there's not a lot of legroom in the back seat, so you can adjust all your seats in such a way that everybody can fit. Like, look how much room there is when I move these. But of course, when the seats are all the way back, there's miles and miles of legroom, and you can just cinch it right up. The other nice thing back here is they have reclining seats, and they actually go pretty far back. So very adjustable, and I like the fact that you get 3 across. Now, because the middle seat is a little thinner, you're not going to fit 3 car seats across unless you get specialized car seats that are going to fit here. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to put one of your car seats in the back if they're one of the wider styles. We have tried this. Outside of that, because this is the mid-level, there is no heated seats back here, and there's actually no sunshades back here. You have to move up to the GT line in order to get those features. As far as I can see, there's also no vents. No, sorry, the vents are here, and there is temperature controls up top for the rear passengers, which I'm very interested to see how this system works, because I know that there's a heat pump in this vehicle, and that means that there's probably secondary heat pump evaporator in the vehicle in order to provide the heating and cooling back here. And there's even vents in the very back seat of this vehicle. Well, let's take a look at the back seat and see how that fits. Okay, we're going to check out the third row now. There is a couple of neat features here. So there's a button here and there's a button here that you can flip the seat forward, and watch this. It lifts up, goes all the way forwards, and there's a huge room for me to get in this vehicle. Now, we were playing around with these seats a little bit. If you pull the seat all the way back, it's going to land right where you set it. So if you stop it in one position and then push it down, that's where the seat is going to stop, and then you don't have any control over that. If you wanted to set it again, you'd have to flip it forward again, grab the seat, and make sure you put it down first before you set everything else up. Now, with that seat pushed forward, there actually is room for my legs back here. I do feel like I'm getting encroached a little bit by this side back here, but outside of that, it does fit a 6'1" adult, and I'm not used to that in 3-row SUVs. Usually the back seat, my head would be hitting the ceiling. So once again, I am super impressed with the Kia EV9. You can definitely fit 2 adults in the back seat if you need to. Now, let's play around with a couple things back here. I see a strap, and check it out. They're reclining seats in the back, so you can actually get yourself upright, or we can go all the way back like that, or all the way forwards like this. So there is adjustability even in the third row. Outside of that, get a little bit tight on my feet, but it does work in a pinch. Okay, I'm under the hood of the EV9 now, and there's honestly not a lot to see here. They've done a very Lexus approach here, and everything is covered in plastic. You have access to your coolant here, your washer fluid here, and there is a 50-liter frunk up front, which is actually very handy because you can put your charging cables up here. And as Matt was noticing, they've actually weather sealed this, so that way when you close the hood, anything in here stays dry. Well, let's take a look at the V2L feature now. Okay, so we're at the back end of the EV9 here, and we wanted to talk charging and V2L. So I have my V2L adapter here, and this one puts out 3.6 kilowatts of vehicle to load power. Now you can't do that off one plug because they are 15 amps per plug, but that means that you can run this V2L adapter and power an appliance with it, and you can also use the plug inside the vehicle in order to power stuff on the campsite or during a power outage. And I've heard a lot of people using their vehicles in a power outage, and it's been very helpful. Another interesting number for this is the 10 to 80% charge time when you're on a road trip. It only takes 24 minutes to charge this vehicle from 10 to 80% on a 350 kilowatt fast charger, which is fantastic because it's right around that 20 to 25 minute mark, which is exactly what you need to get on your way. Now, charging this overnight is also beneficial because it has a 10.9 kilowatt charger if you opt for an EVSE in your house that is large enough to support that. But even without that, it charges in about 8 to 10 hours. So it's not like an F-150 Lightning where you need the really large charge station. You'll be able to get by overnight in this vehicle charging at your home. Okay, we're in the 2024 Kia EV9 and we're going for a drive.
Yeah.
Well, we're in the front seats, and I'm actually interested to see something. We're in the Land model, not even the highest trim of this vehicle, and there is heated and cooled seats up front and a heated steering wheel with 2 different levels of power, and that's pretty neat.
Yep, I got the same on mine. Well, I don't have a heated steering wheel, obviously, but heated and cooled at the very least.
And as we know, this has an A-class heat pump, and not only does it have an A-class heat pump, it also has heating and cooling for the rear seats, which is one of the most phenomenal things about this 3-row SUV. And Matt was just pointing out the neat controls here in the Land model for the climate. They use the dead space between the screens, and it is a touch-sensitive screen in order to bring up all these functions. It's
nice, especially coming from the Hyundai world where that space is just dead. It's just dead, black, nothing. So Kia thought, you know what can we jam in here? Well, now you have your HVAC controls available. Because I know a lot of people, I got to click on buttons to get to them. Great, they're right there. They're right there. And if you want to see the whole screen, it has a, the jump button. Press this, boom. Hit it again, goes away. And you can control your front as well as your rear once you do get into those settings there, as well as your different settings for auto, driver only, etc., etc. It gives you a lot of choice. And even while you're doing that, it still keeps your map up. It still keeps another screen of your customize, whatever you'd like to customize it to be up. You don't lose the whole screen to play with your temperatures.
Yeah, no, we're really big fans of the Land model here, especially for the price. It's about $67K Canadian. We'll post the other figures up right now. But it just has everything you need in here. And this is the 7-passenger model. If you move up to that GT line package, you actually only get 6 seats because they put captain's chairs on the back. So you actually want to keep in the middle models if you want to seat more people.
So we're pulling out on a highway here now. So you're in normal mode right now, and you'll see you get some aggressive color changes. Throw it in sport.
Okay, so that's down in the middle of the steering wheel. We got the drive modes, sport. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's 516 pound-feet of torque moving 5,700 pounds.
Exactly. It's the weight to fun ratio in this vehicle is shocking. And I say that the other night, driving this thing around locally in our neck of the woods here, I pulled up to a red light. I had a gentleman next to me in a mid-2000s BMW Z4. When the light went green, he decided, screw you, I'm going. And he hammered down on the thing. And I thought, nah, I'm not a child. I don't need to race you. But then I did. And I blew his frickin' doors off. It was one of those, like, I don't need to do this, but I'm going to. I got yelled at by my wife for sure. But this thing hauls ass for a 5,700 pound vehicle. My goodness. And you know what? it's not even just sport mode. Sport mode takes out the lag from the acceleration, which I found is kind of evident in the lower modes. But even in eco and even in normal, this thing just takes off. It's crazy. As far as the driving attitudes of this vehicle go, it's big.
Yeah, it feels like an SUV.
It's
and
big.
It should.
It's wide. It's got the body roll. It doesn't have as much body roll as I expected. 1,200 pounds, and I'll throw it on screen here, of that battery weight is down low. Yeah. So a lot of, a fifth of your weight being that low is certainly helping out with that body roll, but it's evident. You don't want to throw this thing through a high-speed corner like you would, your sedan-style counterparts, rather.
Yeah.
But the thing I liked about it the most was its on-road attitude. It just it sits in the lane. It just kind of floats. It doesn't require constant attention, so to speak, and I think that has a lot to do with that dual control arm set up in the front. It just kind of cruises, and it's comfortable.
But not only that, it's on the electric global modular platform. It is purpose built as an electric vehicle. It's not just, say, a Hyundai Palisade or a Kia Telluride that is remodeled as an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So we borrowed the GV70, the Genesis GV70, and that one was basically based on kind of like a Santa Fe chassis almost.
Yeah.
And they were only able to fit the Ioniq 5 battery in it because of the limitations of the size of the vehicle. So this one is designed so that you can stretch it out and fit the biggest battery in the middle as you can, which in this one is 99.8 kilowatt hours. So Model X size battery. And that's the most impressive thing about this vehicle. It is purpose-built, and that's why the ride is so good in here, and why they were able to fit such a large battery.
It's interesting that when you mentioned the GV70, because I found myself putting this product up against that in my head.
What? This is better, because what does this not do when you stop?
Yeah,
there's no hobby horsing.
It doesn't bounce. It doesn't bounce. You're right.
This suspension is designed for this vehicle. It's designed for this battery. Designed for all this weight.
Yeah. It's funny because I found myself comparing them in terms of interior, in terms of the overall luxury of the vehicle, so to speak.
Yep.
And the price point. Mm-hmm. Because comparably, we were sitting in a very similar price point for the two products.
Yeah.
So I kept and I kept finding myself looking in here going, well, for the money, I could get the GV70. It was nicer inside.
Yeah,
in my opinion. But you can't, and this is where I kept having to remind myself, you can't go as far. You can't fit as much stuff in it. You can't fit as many people in it comfortably. You can't do the things that this vehicle does.
Yeah, and it didn't have that usability in the back seats. They didn't move the same way. It was smaller.
So maybe a little, less use of plastics in the dashboard in that vehicle, or in the center console, this gray island, I keep calling it to myself here. Maybe it was a little bit nicer for aesthetically, but I got over it. I got over it really quickly. At first I was like, why would anybody buy this? And then I drove it and I kind of thought about it and I thought, no, you're two different worlds. You can't look at it like that. You got to look at it that price-wise here in Canada, coming in at the $67,000 mark here in Canada, and I'll throw the US price on the screen here. It's almost like an not entry level, but it's like a great price to get into so much capability. Yeah. Right? And like I mentioned to you,
for that, right?
Yeah. I mentioned to you when off camera, was for me coming from an internal combustion vehicle. When I saw 500 kilometers on the dash, I thought, oh damn, okay, cool. The range anxiety evaporated at that point. It didn't exist anymore. And the distance that you can travel is constantly changing. And I'll get a B-roll shot of it here just to show you. When I crank up the air conditioning and turn the fan speed on high, it's making automatic calculations constantly. Yeah. And I'm literally like, I was playing with my little guy last night. He was in here and he was like, look, Daddy, you can't drive as far. And he cranked the fan all the way up. And I was like, oh, good catch, dude. I didn't even notice that initially. So like I said, I'll show it to you here. It's a very smart system. So I know, this week has been incredibly warm. We've been pumping the air conditioning, especially with the kids in the back. And I'm losing 30 to 40 kilometers with the air conditioning running on high, with the rear HVAC running.
Yep.
But I know it's there, and I don't have to think about it because it's doing the calculation for me. It's not like giving me this range. Cool. But now that you're using all this stuff, you actually have this range, but we're not going to publish that. We're just going to show you this number that's going to diminish quicker than you expected. No, it's really, it's a seamless, no thought system, and I really like that about it.
Yeah, and what's great is you even have this screen here that shows you what your usage is. So if you ever wanted to figure out what's happening, it's like I've always mentioned in Hyundai Kia vehicles with their A-Class heat pump, just put it in automatic. When you put it in automatic mode, it works really well. If you stick it on defrost, you're going to use like 6,500 watts, whereas if in automatic mode, it might only use 3,000 and then ramp its way down to 1,800. So.
Yep.
So we're cruising along right now, and we're using about 24 kilowatt hours per 100, which I'm actually pretty impressed with because of how big and heavy this is. Now, speaking about what you get for that 67K Canadian, especially in this model, imagine like the Ioniq 5 is sitting at what, 62 Canadian, something like that?
Yep.
This is only a few $1,000s more, not all that much.
For
and the
a lot
amount you're
more.
getting,
Yeah.
oh my God, it is such a better vehicle. It's one of the best EVs I've ever driven in, just because of the total package. It's got your legacy buttons that everybody's used to. It's got really nice screens that I can see. And I know Hyundai's safety systems, they just work so well. The radar guided cruise control, the blind spot monitors, the rain sensing wipers. Honestly, you may not get rain sensing wipers in this one. No, you do.
You do.
It says
Yep,
automatic.
it's all there.
So for 67K, you're even getting automatic wipers, which I know work well, and auto dimming mirror, which works really well.
And I know this is a dirty word, taboo subject in the automotive world, but self-driving vehicles, you just go ahead and hit that button right there for me, and go ahead and let go. It's not a self-driving car by any stretch of the imagination for all legal purposes, but the steering system in this vehicle, I let it take over, and it'll let you go hands-free for several minutes. It's quite interesting. I let it drive me last night down a secondary highway doing about 100 kilometers, and I just let it go. Couple, nothing crazy, couple of casual bends. It was watching the cars in front. It would slow down if they slowed down. It's a very intuitive system. You know, my wife kept telling me that the car was trying to fight against her the whole time, and I said, just let it do its thing. And she tried it, and she went, oh my God. And I was like, exactly.
And it works so well.
Let it do its thing. It's great. Now, if you're trying to steer it with that system on, I found it a little cumbersome. I did find myself turning the steering assist off just when I wanted to drive it. Obviously on the highway cruising, yeah, sure.
For the highway,
keep me in the middle of the lane.
Incredible.
Keep me in the
On
middle of the lane. It was great.
It takes out all the fatigue.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yep. And then we'll talking about fatigue. One of the interesting things in this vehicle I really like are the headrests on these seats. And I don't know if you've put your head back yet or not, but they've just got this like springy, elastic, like mesh essentially.
Yep.
I don't exactly know what to call it, but it's just, they're comfortable. I found myself just putting my head back and going, yeah, I could fall asleep doing this, but I can't because I have to drive. So the seats are quite comfortable. You have a lot of lumbar and bolster adjustability in the driver's seat, tons of movement adjustments here, and then other interior features you're getting, obviously the heated and cooled seats in the front. I wish we got heated in the back, but again, I'm just being nitpicky. Center console, again, I keep calling it the gray island. It's just a massive gray plastic with a little bit of a faux leather soft touch here on the top, but you do get the wireless charging up high here, which is nice. 2 massive cup holders, as well as your storage bin down low there. I like the physical buttons for your temperature, your fan adjustments. I just like physical buttons versus the buttons up here in the bar. Down low, you're getting the USB-C. Hyundai has really gone hard on USB-C.
They sure
USB-C, USB-A has disappeared completely.
And this is the weirdest thing. Look, charging, data.
Yeah.
Why is there a button for that?
Yeah. Why just have it do both? Like, it's really not complicated. Have it make a decision. You can pair 2 phones at once, which is also super neat in this vehicle. One can be running audio, one can be used as a phone. Lots of really cool features in here, and the dashboard I do like. They've done a good job of breaking it up. 12.3 inch touchscreens. That's both for the cluster as well as the audio. You can see them really nicely. Just, kind of the peripheral. Yeah, I want to change that. Yes, I want to change that. You don't really have to focus on them. The steering wheel. How do you feel about the steering wheel?
It's square.
It's square, and it's chunky. Is it, to me,
Feels good though.
It does feel good. I'm not like upset about it. But when I first got in, I was like, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here. It's chunky. Yeah. Again, not a bad wheel. The square took me a minute to get used to. And it's funny, Jeremy did the exact same thing I did when I got in this vehicle. Where the hell is the power button?
Yeah, it's hidden.
It's hidden down on the shifting stock, closer to the steering wheel. You almost got to like cup underneath, slide your thumb in to get to it. It's very weird. I don't know why he took it off the dashboard. It just seems like, I don't know. It was a pointless move. Like why fix it if it's not broken? I don't know. Point being, I had to look for it. I got in this car and I'm like, how the hell do I turn this thing on? Eventually found it. That's good news. But yeah, I don't know. That one weirded me out a little bit.
Yeah, so if you go to test drive it, where you push for park, put your thumb all the way down the stock, you'll find the EV button on the very inside near the steering wheel.
Yeah. Talking about buttons as well. So, I always like to point out one thing on the vehicle I don't like. I can live with the start button. It's not the worst. The volume and power knob. I love that I got a physical button, but the finish on it is very fine. And I found myself shutting the radio on and off to try and roll the thing. My thumb just slips on it. I don't know, maybe I've got like greasy, oily skin or something. I don't know, maybe it's a me problem. But like I was like trying to turn, like, you know, my jam came on. I was listening to, you know, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with my little guys. And I'm like, yeah, let's bump this. And I went to roll it to turn it up, and I shut the damn thing off. And then I was like, oh crap, what did I do? I turned it back on. All right, turn the volume up. I shut it off again. And then I'm panicking, and you know, they're yelling at me because they want to listen to their song. But it was like, and then I thought about it later by myself, and I played with it, and I thought, I have to put force on it. Again, I'm going on about this. It's a weird button. Mm-hmm. Play with it for yourself. See if you like it. I wish it was better.
Yeah, well, at least you got a volume control over here on the steering wheel.
And that's what I've been using. So, as we take off from a stop here, it's a great time to talk about torque. So, front and rear motors. Kia, I don't know if they're being cagey, but we did a fair bit of research trying to find the front and rear motor specs. But Kia really went with, here's our horsepower numbers this time, and here's our torque numbers. No real kilowatt size for the motor that we could find. And that's the media sites as well as just any public information. I'm sure we could figure it out if we sat down and did the math and all that stuff, but I don't do math good. Mm-hmm. So let's not do that. What they have given us though is the rear motor is 252 pound-feet of torque, and the front motor is 189 pound-feet of torque, making up your total
516.
516. I don't know. Does that math track? I hope it tracks.
No, it doesn't. I think
it doesn't.
With the FOD off.
FOD off.
That's that 400 foot-pounds.
So you have to have the FOD on for the full jam, but it's nice. And I've noticed when you're driving this thing, the torque, it doesn't feel that split. You know what I mean? When you get your foot into it, you're kind of expecting a little more push than pull. You're kind of expecting it to react based on the numbers. I'm expecting more torque here, less torque there, but no, it just feels balanced. It just feels balanced, which is beautiful.
So I think Matt and I both agree this vehicle is just one heck of a good package, and we're coming to the end of this video, so I think we're just going to wrap up our thoughts now.
So we're at the end of this one, guys. We just got back from our drive, and what are our final thoughts on the Kia EV9? I think from a price point standpoint, this vehicle really puts itself in an aggressive spot in the market. You know, coming in, well, our Model S tested today, sitting at 67,495 here in Canada. It's really, it's punching above its weight class, I dare say. You know, the third row, all the features that you want. It's not the fully loaded version, but like, if you're the guy that doesn't need every single bell and whistle, but you like a really nice vehicle that's comfortable, it's fun to drive, you know, 516 foot-pounds of torque. It is very fun to drive. And you don't need to spend all that extra money on the little extra things that people don't really care about, in my opinion. This is the car. That's, I think, my takeaway on this one. This is the jump to EVs if you're that guy.
Yeah, if you think about it this way, my car was $66,300 when I bought it, and it's a car.
Yeah.
This is a full-size 3-row SUV, all-wheel drive, all that power, all that space, and almost 100 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah, and
this is even bigger than a Tesla Model X too, so it's really punching above its weight class.
And not to mention just a wicked range. Like, I mean, for me, not having as much experience in this space, when I got in and saw 500 kilometers on the dash, I was like, oh, damn, my ICE car doesn't do that on a full tank.
Yeah.
So why am I worried?
Yeah, and with the weather, you said you got about 20.1 kilowatt hours per 100.
Averaging
So,
about 20.
I'd say you're in the 400 to 500 kilometer range with this car, which is absolutely incredible for a vehicle of this size. I'm really impressed with this thing.
Exactly. So, like I said, think that's it for this one. Let us know what you think. Kia EV9. Go below. Subscribe to the channel and obviously leave us a comment if you have any questions on it. We will check them and answer them. And if there's anything else you guys would like to know, ask. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.